Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
And a happy Thor's Day to all who celebrate. Thor Nystrom from Matthew Berry's Fantasy Life platform joins us every week to spread football joy to the universe. Thor, how are you today?
I'm doing great. The Vikings are undefeated. They're heading to Lambeau where they smoked the Packers last year. Life is good.
Yes, the non-frozen tundra of Lambeau Field. So we'll get into, you texted us a couple days ago with a great idea for a subject or a talker here. Just the idea of quarterback stock values here. And we could even get into some reckless trade speculation. We could also just talk about the value of Vikings quarterbacks and some other things we will dive into here on Thursday. But let's first make a trip to our friends at Quick Trip, Judd.
Hold on a second here. I got to put the Quick Trip hat on because right now you're looking at all the delicious things that you can get at Quick Trip. Breakfast, lunch, or dinner, that's exactly right. Now, yes, as I keep saying, it's a convenience store. So if you just want to pick up a snack or a pop, that's fine. But the Karuba coffee there. Look, Quick Trip has everything that you could possibly need. Basically, what it is the most convenient of grocery stores available. And outside, don't let that tank go down to E. That's a mistake my friends make. You want to keep that thing on full by stopping at Quick Trip. If you just put the app on your phone, you can actually order all your groceries. They'll bring them out to you. You never have to go inside. Quick Trip, it's fantastic. It's why I wear my hat for Quick Trip.
Love, I saw a couple people in the comments this week like, Judd's just a shill, he's like a NASCAR with his sponsored hats and T-shirts.
That's not true at all. I don't know what you're talking about.
We appreciate our partners here that keep Purple Daily a 365-day-a-year show. So, Thor, let's get into let's start with Sam Darnold here. His stock, if you will, as a football commodity 6 months ago was, and the market bared it out. He was backup quarterback that maybe would be like a bridge. He was one of the more expensive backup quarterbacks as a former third overall pick, $10 million a year. What would his stock, if right now the Vikings aren't going to trade him, but if there was a parallel universe where the Dolphins need a quarterback and two other teams need a quarterback, what do you think Sam Darnold's stock would be at right now?
I think right now, round 2 pick is it right here where we sit currently. I think that's what it would have to be. Yeah. I mean, even because you think about if you let him leave in the offseason, and let's say the Vikings were to get a comp pick. Now, in the reality that we live in, the Vikings have all this cap space. They're going to be signing a bunch of guys. That might offset any signing, so no comp picks awarded. But Sam Darnold, for sure, he would be looked at as a guy that, the contract that he could get on the open market. You would get that late 3rd round comp after the 3rd round, that sort of comp pick. The compensation would have to be more than that. And I don't think a simple 3 at this point would be accurate. I think that would be a round 2 pick.
I think you're probably right. And so, here's the dicey thing about this entire topic, in my opinion. Okay. The dicey thing is this. I think the Dolphins actually would work because he'd go to a Mike McDaniel quarterback friendly system that comes from the same tree as Kevin does. So O'Connell, but what's funny is if you got a round 2 pick, let's say he gets traded to take your pick of dysfunctional team right now. They're like, Sam Darnold's playing well. I think the game would totally change there because I think everything that we're about to talk about when it comes to the quarterback situation here revolves far more around the head coach than the actual quarterbacks. I take you back to Kirk Cousins, and you can say, well, he didn't have his best stats or whatever, but, we never saw Kirk Cousins be as effective as he was with Kevin O'Connell calling plays and coaching him. And so, I think if Darnold went to someone on the O'Connell tree, he probably would be fine. I think Cinderella would have to give back the slipper fairly quickly if he went to a team and they just thought Sam Darnold's a changed man, Thor.
That's for sure. Yeah, I mean, Kevin O'Connell is a turbo boost for any quarterback. He's steroids for any quarterback. He could, at this point, it's becoming he's the fixer-upper, right? He won a game with Josh Dobbs 2 days after Josh Dobbs came inside the building. Nick Mullins had the 400-plus yard game. even with Cousins being down in recent seasons, the Vikings offense has remained viable. And Kevin O'Connell's record with when his starting quarterback is not injured is absolutely ridiculous. So, yeah, you have to keep that in mind with Sam's improvement here in the early going. And I mean, other teams certainly would if they were gauging his value, but I think that's where you would put it right now. And an awesome thing for the Vikings going forward that you have a guy that at this point needs to be acknowledged as, if not the best quarterback guru developer in the National Football League, right there at the top.
Yeah, because these are all amazing problems for the Vikings to have if this continues forward. But, you know, dude, I put out just a video and a question on social media. I think it was late last week, or maybe it was on Monday. I can't remember if it was after the week 3 game. But, you know, what would this look like going forward? Would you consider re-signing him if he remains a top 5-ish statistical quarterback? What would you do? And I tend to agree with Judd even now. Like, we can keep reevaluating this every month if we want, because the longer he plays like this, the harder the discussion gets in terms of what would you do at the end of the season when he's a free agent. But if Kevin O'Connell can get this type of juice out of Sam Darnold, why would you reward, from a cap standpoint, the position? Like, I know it sounds brutal because Sam Darnold would then deserve a bunch of money, but you've got this top 10 draft pick commodity in the wings that's on a rookie scale deal, JJ McCarthy, for 4, maybe 5 years, well, 4 years after this year. But let's just, for you, Thor, if Sam keeps playing like this, and at the end of the year, he's top 5 or top 7 in a bunch of meaningful categories, and the Vikings are like an 11 or 12 win team, and maybe they win a playoff game, where do you draw the line where you would actually consider bringing him back on a multi-year contract? Or is it a non-consideration for you?
It's a non-consideration for me. The you see how good Sam's playing. And I understand that people are like, oh, what if he keeps doing this? And then we re-sign. The argument is equally strong on the other side of it. You have seen Kevin O'Connell now do this to X number of quarterbacks. Again, like the Josh Dobbs isn't good. And 2 days later, they had a viable offense, Nick Mullins, et cetera. And you mentioned the Kirk Cousins thing. This is a test. Of course, you give Sam his flowers for what he is doing so far, but this is also a testament to that furnished apartment that we were talking about over the offseason, about the Vikings have all these pieces already there on offense. The supporting cast, you have arguably the NFL's best play caller on that side of the ball. You just needed the quarterback to go in and just sort of steady the ship, be a steady hand on the wheel. Sam has done that, but to go overboard at the end of the season, regardless of where this season goes, but let's say it's sort of a bonanza season, to go overboard and then to junk what you have done with the books. Recall, this is the season where the Vikings are keeping all their dead cap hit, right? I mean, most in the NFL, whatever. In the future, next season, going forward, now you've opened up all this enormous war chest of cap space because of the quarterback moves that you made, to now then go and delineate that amount of salary cap space to give them a south of Kirk deal. Let's say it's between a Geno Smith and a Kirk deal like that. Tie up all the cap space when you know that Kevin O'Connell can do this with other quarterbacks. This is even outside of my opinion of what JJ McCarthy is. Obviously, you guys know that I think he's going to be a superstar. But even outside of that, why would you, after 1 year after the top 10 pick, now you're going to delineate that cap space to the quarterback position? To me, that's a non-starter. I think that this is the reason that this is exciting is this is the lowest form of what this team is going to be going forward. You're going to have the draft pick next year. You're going to have all that cap space. And I think the quarterback position has already been solved. And you don't have to listen to me. Kevin O'Connell said this right after JJ McCarthy's injury. We have found our quarterback of the future for this franchise.
Kevin O'Connell's also gone on some nice dates with a new quarterback the last 3 weeks too. And just saying.
Do you know what this is, guys? This is O'Connell bought a mansion, but it needs to be fixed up. So he's renting, and he's renting a real nice house. And it's very, very comfortable. But when that mansion's done, he's moving in.
But the house looks better than you thought.
It does, but you're not like tempted by, well, I really like my house here in Edina, but I got a mansion on the golf course. So, and the thing too that's important to keep in mind here is, and O'Connell is fantastic at dropping breadcrumbs. when O'Connell was speaking to that church group in Plymouth in the spring, I believe, and he talked about the fact that I am known as the quarterback killer in our building because there have been guys, who I work with who have said, draft Levis, draft this guy. And he always was like, no, don't. And they're like, you got to draft somebody. And finally he did. It's very, very clear, especially now with the cachet that this team is carrying because of its success. When the season is done, one person is going to make this decision. O'Connell. Like, it's not going to be let's sit down with Kwesi and Ryan Grigson, and let's sit down with a bunch of more people. Hey, Wilfs, what do you think about the quarterback? Kevin O'Connell is going to decide. And by saying we have our quarterback after McCarthy got hurt, that was Kevin's way of guarding against this. Because that quote is the money quote of the year. That means that McCarthy is his guy. And that's not even getting into the financial implications, Thor, that you talked about that are also a great point.
Yeah, and you think about this roster, the bones of it, and then if JJ McCarthy is as good, or I think he'll be better than what we have seen of Sam running that offense. And then all the money.
Can you say that again? Just say that one more time.
JJ was already on Sam's heels. Yeah. Recall the Raiders. He ripped up the Raiders in his first game.
Hold on. I gotta get out. Flag. He
was right there. I mean, yeah, the improvement in camp, all of it, right? Like, and he was nipping on the heels already. And that's a kid who just turned 21 years old. Kevin O'Connell, you mentioned coming out with those quotes. This is an outcome that was decided in advance. JJ McCarthy is going to be this team's 2025 starter. Doesn't take anything away from Sam. Doesn't mean that we can't have a blast this season. I'm already having a blast, right. But that's just the way it is. And Sam is playing for something. He is playing for his next contract and that QB1 job on whatever team it may be this offseason.
Okay, one more layer to this quarterback sort of value or stock conversation. Let's say the Vikings go against what I think we're all pretty much, unless Dex wants to fight the three of us, like I think we all right now, hey, this is a fun fling. We all know that we're going to separate colleges at the end of the summer here. Sam's going to go to the East Coast. We're going to go to the West Coast. It's a good fling. We're not going to get married. So we all kind of agree there. But let's say the Vikings disagree. And, January rolls around and Sam Darnold's getting MVP votes, and the Vikings are making a playoff run. Man, we've had so much uncertainty around here, and let's sign him. Let's sign him. If the Vikings traded JJ McCarthy between now and like the beginning of next season, and I know this is wild. It is a reckless speculation Thursday, so it's a safe space.
Reckless speculation.
This is not likely to happen, but this is a safe space to speculate here. What would the Vikings get for JJ McCarthy in a trade between now and the start of next season, or now and the start of the draft?
The starting point would have to be 2 first-round picks, and the first one would have to, in this coming class, would have to be real high. Because I believe that JJ McCarthy would have been the first selection in the 2025 draft. In an alternate reality where he goes back to Michigan and he plays all this season, he would have been the first overall. He would have come into this year by far the QB1 with a bullet, and then a huge break. And then you start talking about the Carson Becks, the Quinn Ewers, the Shadir Sanderses. So what would you get for the first overall pick? We don't see them traded a whole lot, but it's another pick in the top 5, 6, 7, somewhere like that. Then your first round pick next year, that's where we're starting the discussion. And then we flesh out the trade from there. But that is the only way that I wouldn't trade the guy, of course. But if it were, that's where I think his value would be, or where it would have to be.
I'm on Tankathon right now, and it's really early, but like the worst teams now, Jacksonville's not. They just signed Trevor Lawrence. There's a big Trevor Lawrence discussion to be had, but they just locked into a contract. I could see Tennessee back in the quarterback market. Will Levis has been a disaster. They just bailed on Malik Willis because he's unplayable. And Matt LaFleur's like, actually, he's not. We're just going to bring him in here and use him the right way. Cincinnati's locked in with Burrow. Indianapolis could be interesting depending on what happens. There's a bunch of 1 and 2 teams. But if what you just said is true, if there's a team out there, now not many teams, if any, have 2 first-round picks to give you in this upcoming draft, but it would have to be like a 2020. It probably have to, if you're right, if that's the asking price, is a 2025 first, a 2026 first, and then something else. You're telling me that without playing a snap in the NFL, it's possible JJ McCarthy's value would have gone from the 10th overall pick to you getting multiple first-round picks. I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying, like, if that's the case, wouldn't you look at that if Sam Darnold's playing really well?
Well, I don't know how it can be less than that, right? And the guys who are closest to JJ are the ones that rave about him the most. And Kevin O'Connell now is a part of that group. You know, there was this funny story that I heard on a television broadcast recently about how Mike Shanahan had gone into the offices of the owners, Dan Schneider, at Washington during the Robert Griffin thing between when he got that injury. And then he's like, he's going to be coming back. Kirk Cousins had played well the end of that season, and how Shanahan had told the owners, Robert Griffin's value will never be higher than it is right now. And we know that this guy is not what the league thinks he is. We should trade him right now while his trade value is the highest. Yeah. It might be the exact inverse with JJ McCarthy. I think the Vikings know what they have here. The rest of the league, I'm not sure. But you look at the other rookie performances. I mean, Jaden Daniels now has turned that thing around here certainly the last game. But the other rookie quarterbacks have struggled. I think that JJ, if he was starting on this team, would probably be the most successful rookie quarterback in the NFL right now, and would probably be the front runner for the rookie of the year. But the things played out as they did. You know what you have in that asset, and the contract that he's on, etc. I don't know how you would trade him for less than a top 6-7 pick in this class, plus that team's first round pick next year. Again, for me, that's where the conversation would have to start. Anything short of that, I'm just hanging up the phone.
Yeah.
I will answer the question. I'm not trading him, and here's why.
Yeah.
The Darnold, first of all, Sam Darnold is being propped up, okay?
Yeah.
He's better than we all thought, but we don't know what the future holds. He's going to want a multi-year, and he'll deserve it. I mean, if this continues, a minimum 3-year contract that gives him a competitive quarterback salary. I'm not biting that off. The other thing is, having watched a lot of practices with Darnold, who is going great, and it looked great in practice in certain things. And McCarthy has an it factor that I couldn't give up on.
Yeah, I agree.
Like I gotta admit, it's man crush. Like there's
Judd.
McCarthy.
Judd Smith.
There's a man crush thing there. Do you know how few people in life have an it factor? Like there's just something about, especially at that position, which is, again, arguably the toughest position in all of sports. This kid's got an it factor. The way he controls the huddle, the way he controls the podium. I mean, not to be, and at the end of the day, it's not going to be a big deal short term. But for lack of a better explanation, and this is partially on purpose, Sam Darnold's a dead ass. He's a dead ass. JJ McCarthy gets up there, and everything is like, I get why you're good, kid. And this is what O'Connell wants. Like, this is what O'Connell is looking for. O'Connell's making it very clear. Now, he'll defer to Sam and say, it's Sam, it's Sam, it's Sam. But O'Connell is making it very clear that he can prop up a lot of QBs, different styles, blah, blah, blah. He can prop them up. I think McCarthy is more of a, he thinks like I think guy.
Yeah, and McCarthy is a creator, a guy who is going to elevate the cast around him. Whereas Sam, like we talked about in the past, and to your point, Judd, he was a guy that needed to be in one of these perfect situations where he wasn't being asked to elevate the supporting cast, but where the supporting cast and the coaching was elevating him. He's a guy where you have to sort of, show it. This is the system. This is the first read. This is the second read. We want you to do this. If it's not there, get the timing of your feet right. All we need you to do is facilitate here, play point guard. And that's what Sam's ultimate destiny was. And in this scenario with the awesome supporting cast, the awesome play caller, that's where you see his game tick up. It's why, you mentioned this offseason, you think about that and where he could go. I think there's situations that would be really beneficial for him. If the Tua situation was long-term, I think the Dolphins would be great, but then there's other situations where we know where Sam's game would crater. Where I think the difference with McCarthy, you're mentioning some of the intangible stuff in the room and that sort of stuff, the unquantifiable stuff. But the other part of that is his skill set and the way that JJ plays the game. It is going to elevate the supporting cast around him. You've seen what's happened with Michigan's offense in the offseason interim without JJ McCarthy. And then in the NFL, the most interesting thought experiment with him that we were doing over the spring is you take some of those restrictor plates off in the situation that he was at Michigan, where you're not throwing as much in the second half. Jim Harbaugh's not letting you do your special sauce of running around, creating, breaking the plays off, keeping those mechanics with you on the move, and then hitting people on the hands 3 levels down the field 4 or 5 seconds after the snap. Some of that's, and McCarthy for sure can do the in-structure stuff, but the special magic stuff that you create in the moment, you're drawing it up in the dirt as the bullets are flying. That's what McCarthy's going to bring to the offense. And then that's before we even talk about the financials of if you're not delineating $25 million, $30 million a year to a starting quarterback. Now you can put that all on a defense. You still have all those the key offensive pieces are already in place. That's where it gets really fun thinking about this team going forward for the next decade.
Yeah. By the way, I 100% agree. Full on JJ McCarthy's team of the future here, but it is fun to speculate recklessly. And you know what?
Speculation.
This show prides itself for years and years, and even our old radio show. Let's turn over every stone. Let's go to the wide ranges of the reckless speculation pasture, and let's not dismiss any premises. And so we can continue to entertain this as we go forward. And talking to enough Vikings fans, Thor, I was at a tailgate with you a couple weeks ago talking to some Vikings fans, and I was kind of just polling the room. Half the people I talked to said, sign Darnold. You got to sign. If he keeps playing like this, you have to sign Darnold. So among the fan base, this is going to continue to be a fun conversation over the coming months.
Yeah, I just don't. Again, remember the thing last year where it was like the 1 week of Pastronaut mania here? This is what O'Connell does. Right. I mean, like, again, you don't want to take credit away from Sam. He's doing great with the circumstances that he's in. Right. But this is the real testament is to Kevin O'Connell. And when you think about that, JJ McCarthy was the guy that he handpicked. And then the rapid ascension that we saw of JJ up through that first preseason game up until that injury. Yeah. And, O'Connell's on the same page here with the front office. They have created that war chest of cap room for this offseason and then going forward. That's all going to get funneled into the defense. Maybe you make the offensive line a little better. We'll see how the rest of the season plays out. What's already a good offensive line. But between all of that, your resources go in there. If JJ's the real deal, this team is going to be legitimate contenders for a good chunk of time there going forward.
And we've learned as well, too, that, I mean, this is why you want a guy that knows quarterbacks inside and out to run the building, at least with the decision in regards to that position. Because, Rick Spielman struggled. He struggled to identify one. And what's weird about this entire discussion is that, the Vikings thought that they had their QB whisperer in 2006 with Brad Childress. Because he was given a lot of credit for McNabb. Came in and they're like, this is our guy. He's going to, and he took Tavares at the end of the second round. It's like, Brad Childress is going to be that guy. And it took him approximately 18 more years or so to land on the guy that really, really gets it. But I feel good because it's one guy. It's not the worst thing that you can do, in my opinion, is Darnold has a great year, and then you have a committee meet. I don't want a committee meeting. I want one guy that knows, yeah, you know what? He was great, but he's gone now. That's what I want.
Yeah, and speaking of fair market value, what is the actual value of Kevin O'Connell's skill set? If it was on the free, I mean, that guy he should be getting paid a lot more than he is right now. And the other point that I want to make is Brian Flores, by any means necessary, lock down the border. That guy must stay. I don't care what you need to pay him. At the point when the legal proceedings play out and then he's in the clear and then some team comes calling with a solid head coaching offer, of course, you can't keep him at that point. But
he doesn't get along with JJ McCarthy or Sam Darnold.
The quarterbacks all hate his guts. He's trying to beat him up in practice. What's going on?
We will keep him until the end. Brian, as long as you want to coach, you have a home here in Minnesota and whatever it takes. There is no salary cap on coaches.
Exactly.
Right? You keep Brian Flores by any means necessary.
I have one more quarterback value question for you that has nothing to do with the Vikings, but I'm just curious as we talk about like quarterback stocks. Bryce Young was the number 1 overall pick a year and a half ago. He is a disaster. And there's a lot of reasons in Carolina where they just haven't set him up for success. But it's part of a whole equation. So he comes in, gets replaced by Andy Dalton, who lights it up for 300 plus yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. And the Panthers come out, they dominate, score 36 points. further decreasing Bryce values. So from number 1 overall pick, if you were to trade Bryce Young right now, a year and a half later, what would you get for him?
I think late third, maybe early fourth is sort of the range that you're in. And then
a year and a half and his stock goes from number 1 to that's crazy, man. Wow.
Yeah. But just think about like this scenario. Like let's put ourselves in the driver's seat of this one. And this is knock on wood. I'm not, this is just hypothetical, people. But let's say that Darnold was to get injured, right? And then all of a sudden the Vikings, who are looking like a contender, and the schedule opens up for them. But now your quarterback situation is like Nick Mullins and Jaron Hall again. What would you trade for Bryce Young? The Vikings have that comp third pick. I think that's right around where you'd be like, you know what? Kevin O'Connell fixes quarterbacks. We have the cap space potentially to do it. Certainly they do going forward. That pick right there, I think that's right around there. You know,
or do you sign Tannehill for 3 months and save your draft capital? Would be
could do that too. I guess. But if
he's in the Bahamas.
If you turn around Bryce Young, which Kevin O'Connell, that's what he does.
Then trade him. Then you're saying trade him in the offseason.
All of a sudden it's an arbitrage opportunity, right? Like,
so you could trade like a 3rd round comp pick or whatever. He plays well down the stretch, and now you get like a 1st or a 2nd round pick back for him. I don't know how the finances would work.
If he was lighting it up, yeah, it's just I mean,
or
you mentioned
McCarthy.
Where was Sam? No, don't say that again, Phil. But you mentioned where Sam's value was before he got to O'Connell, then what he was after, and the cousin, yada 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 yada. With Bryce Young, you would have to assume that it's something similar. I don't know if he would be a guy that the Vikings are interested in, but this is something that I would do if I was Miami, right? We talked about the Tua injury. I would see if they would be interested. I'd start with a 4th and then maybe a late 3rd. I don't know what Miami's pick situation is, but I think that's what the fair value is of Bryce Young right now. And why would the Panthers not listen? It seems like that situation on both sides of it is broken. The David Tepper guy seems like he stepped in and was like, no, we want Bryce Young. He comes from a good family and he, yada, yada, yada. And you gave up everything that you did for him. And then all of a sudden, most of the guys who were involved with that decision outside of David Tepper, unfortunately, he can't fire himself. They are now out of the building, right? And so because of all that stuff, it seems like a new staff, new administration, they're going to want to, I think, go forward with a different quarterback. They're going to have a pick where they're, could potentially get one here in the top 10 the next class. That thing seems to be broken. And I think that's probably around where Young's value is. It's right in the middle of that draft.
Real quick, my favorite Panthers nugget is, so David Tepper, train wreck owner.
Yeah.
The Panthers have had 3, not counting interims, they've had 3 head coaches in the last 20 months. Matt Rule, Frank Reich, and then Canales. So 3 head coaches in the last 20 months. The Pittsburgh Steelers have had 3 head coaches since the 60s.
That's Chuck Noll.
Congratulations, Panthers. Nice work over there.
I guarantee you, Thor, the goal was when Canales got the job, the goal was not to, we'll turn to hopefully Andy Dalton and you can develop him since he's like Canales' age. Hey, what is your thought about this? So it sounds like the word from Green Bay is that there's a very good chance Jordan Love is going to play, which, on the surface, okay, great. But here's my thought. I find this intriguing. So a guy coming off an MCL sprain, which is code for partial tear, who clearly is going to come back fairly quickly from this, and clearly is probably not going to have the mobility that he has. Is this a great idea by the Packers, or is this a sitting duck for Flores? Because with what this Vikings, if I'm LaFleur and I've been watching film, and I know that I trust myself, right? He's done a hell of a job. He's a very good play caller. But I don't know if what I've seen from the Vikings of 3 games on film makes me want to play a quarterback who is my starter, but also is not going to be exactly as mobile as I want. It just feels like a sitting duck situation potentially for the Packers quarterback.
Yeah, categorically, he's not 100%. All of them keep saying it, right? I mean, they keep the Packers on their side, the coaches, whatnot. It's like, oh, Jordan's getting better every day. That's even what we're hearing here on Thursday. Jordan Love's saying the same. I'm trying to push myself as fast as I can go because I would like to return on Sunday. Both of those, every sentiment there, it points to Jordan Love is not 100%. What will not be 100%? His mobility and then his ability to plant in the lower half and everything. And now you're going up against this front 7 who gets pressure on the quarterback at the highest rate in the NFL. I don't know that is a great scenario. The last game at Lambeau last October, Brian Flores had Jordan Love in a blender, and Packer fans love to point to, on December 31st, look at Jordan Love's stats. When he was set up on the Viking side of the ball multiple times in the first half because Jaron Hall was the starting quarterback here, the team was injury decimated. Again, when both those teams were at 100% earlier last season, and the Packer fans at this point would be like, well, we were one of the youngest teams in the NFL and yada, yada, and it took us time to blah, 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 blah. But in this situation here, we have seen now quarterbacks who are on Jordan Love's level, I think, C.J. Stroud, Brock Purdy, those guys have gone into the wood chipper against Brian Flores. Now you're going to rush a guy back in order to put him back there in the pocket. To me, that's not if I was the Packers, I would start Malik Willis. I would try in this game because you give Jordan Love another week to get healthy. You don't put him. I mean, the guy's wearing a steak suit and a Shark Tank. If his mobility is compromised against that Vikings front seven, against Brian Flores is blitzing, I would try. Let's see if we can just do the downhill running thing, get the quarterback on the perimeter, Malik Willis's skill set, and then every now and again when we get the one-on-one shot, maybe we guess right of where Flores, he's putting the 8 guys on the line, then everyone's running back, chickens with their head cut off. We can guess where we can get a one-on-one shot, chuck up the ball downfield. I think I would do that if I was the Packers, but I hope they start Jordan Love. I want that compromised Jordan Love against that front seven, and let's see the way that this thing plays out. So, Jordan, I hope you're feeling healthy. Love to see you on Sunday.
A steak suit and a Shark Tank.
Love to see you on Sunday being carried off on a stretcher.
Before we dive into not dive into the Shark Tank, but dive into more stuff here. Judd, you got that Padres Brewing shirt on there. Looking good today, Judd. Looking good.
Oh, thank you, Phil. Thank you. Yeah. And you know what? I say Padres, you say Porgs. You know what we can all say? We can all say beer is delicious, and from Padres, it is at its most delicious. I've been talking for a couple months now about the red. They have a fantastic red. They've got a lager that is great for a football Sunday. Get some of those. Enjoy the football. Enjoy the beer. It is fantastic. The most important thing is it's beer that tastes like beer. Padres has that available in more than 80 liquor stores in the metro. Again, 80 liquor stores or more. I go to Lunds Byerly's. Get it there. It's in the cool section, so it comes ready-made, which is fantastic. Check them out, Padres.com, Padraigs.com. Absolutely the best beer and the official beer of the sports dad who loves his beer.
Roku is America's #1 TV streaming platform, and they offer now, a new lineup of smart TVs made by Roku. My wife and I just bought a 65-inch Roku Pro Series TV just in time for football season about a month ago, and we're also just getting into we're watching Scandal again. I don't know if you guys ever watched that show from 10 years ago.
A little bit, yeah.
We're rewatching a bunch of. We're into the 6th season again while we mix and match football and this Twins collapse on the 65-inch. It's great. Honey, do you want to sit down and watch the Twins collapse again tonight on a 4K TV? Roku.com to learn more or shop at a retailer near you. And it is getting pretty close to outdoor light season. Maybe it is outdoor light season for you. KW Outdoor Solutions is here to help you with your outdoor holiday light projects. They are your one-stop shop for outdoor holiday lighting, design, installation, maintenance, takedown, and storage. They'll help you with roof line hanging, trees, shrubs. They'll do it all. You can choose from a variety of colors and patterns, maybe a classic single-colored look, or go full-on Clark Griswold and impress the neighbors. KWOutdoorsolutions.com. KWOutdoorsolutions.com. Little cousin Eddie can come over and have some eggnog.
Hey, Clark.
Okay, the Vikings. Here's another question for you guys before we get to Thor's college football junkie thing to watch for Vikings fans this weekend. So 3-0, the Vikings in 2022 in KOC's first year started 2-1 in the first 3 games. Then they rattled off a bunch of close wins, like 1-score win after 1-score win. They wind up starting 8-1. They win 13 games. The defense obviously much better this time around than 2 years ago with Flores versus Donashell. What are the other things that make you think that this year's team is different or less fluky than the 2022 team, besides just the defense being better?
Well, where are the one-possession games? I'm still waiting for the Vikings to play an opponent on their level, right? I mean, like the first year with the whatever year 2022 or that year, it was a whole bunch of basically the Kevin O'Connell, the Vikings staff, was able to effectively turn a whole bunch of games into coin flips that then they sort of moneyballed their way to the right side of, like in the moment with these in-game decisions and how they were running the team. It was a whole bunch of bubble gum and Band-Aids and smoke and mirrors. And then you would flip these coin flip. This team, when are we going to see it? Hopefully the Packers put up a fight this weekend. We see a close game where it's decided at the end. But that's the difference here. Qualitatively, this team is worlds ahead of that one, at least to this point.
I'd say this, and this again is one of those hard to quantify things, but I think this is the tightest, culturally best team I've seen since 2017. And that team took off with Case, and it got sticky. Like that team it felt like they were tight. Post game on Sunday, Harrison Smith and Aaron Jones both talked about the fact that there's something special here, and I believe that. Like players don't say that. That's not a thing that you just are like, I'm going to make this up. Both of them talked about the tightness of the team. And I actually asked O'Connell yesterday about guarding against confidence. You're 3-0, you're on ESPN all over your own building. And he said, I got ahead of that at the start of training camp, basically saying, I think we're going to be good. And here's what's going to take place if we're good. People are going to get on the bandwagon. They're going to think that we're great. And we need to set up a structure right now to address that. And I went and asked Shaq Griffin about that opening night address from O'Connell. And Griffin said, he talked about that, but we didn't need that because a bunch of us vets felt that coming out of the off-season workouts. So I think that, knock on wood, because if guys get hurt, it changes everything. But this team has just this weird, unquantifiable closeness, special feel. And I think it's got enough vets who basically, like Jones, Griffin, Gilmore, perhaps a little bit, who have something to prove. So it's a very interesting locker room dynamic that I will say this, for the previous 6 years, I didn't feel there. In 2017, I definitely did. It definitely became close. And this feels like that as far as the tightness of all being on the same page, offense, defense, special teams.
Yeah, the vibes are immaculate. Judd, were you in the locker room when they were singing Mini Men after the win over the Texans?
The media's not in for that, Thor.
So they do that first and then open the doors for media, right?
By the time
the media gets in there, they're all like, we were just hanging out in here doing nothing. Yeah,
day by day. We just got to take it game to game. That's all we do.
The vibes are immaculate. And we talk about with O'Connell and Flores, the schematics and all that stuff and how good they are, when the movie theater, when the curtains open, when we're able to watch those games. But Judd, the thing that you're talking about, it's a coaching thing that goes beyond that, which is anticipating success and then getting your team ready for if this is the scenario. It's the same thing as like in the game. It's just sort of the more human element of it, of like, this is what could happen. This is what you could see. This is, sort of what we have to keep in mind. So, yeah, I mean, all the stuff that you said, this is very exciting.
Yeah. I think to answer the question too, Thor nailed it with just the validity of if you're going to be in 1-score games the entire season, yes, there is a skill to being situationally sound, and some teams are going to have like the Cowboys are constantly mismanaging the clock and disorganized. And if you're a more disorganized team, you're less likely to win those coin flips. The Vikings were highly organized a couple years ago. And so I don't think it's like 90-10 where you can win close games like they were, but I do think you can skew the odds closer to like 60-40, maybe 65-35 if you're just situationally great. But yeah, I mean, to piggyback off Judd's point, Kevin O'Connell has built a culture where they look for guys that fit it and love football and love coming to work, but they've built a culture, unlike Mike Zimmer, especially toward the end, where guys, they were playing well for certain seasons, but guys kind of dreaded going to work. This team, like Harrison Smith, is 35 years old. He's talking about, I just love going to work with them. I mean, there's certain seasons where it sucks to get up in the morning because you're not feeling it with the team. These guys love getting up in the morning, Thor, and going to work and putting in extra study and whatever. And you don't get that with every single I know it's shocking for fans. These guys are playing a game and making millions. Yeah, and a lot of them hate getting up in the morning because their coach sucks or the team isn't together. This team doesn't have that problem.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and the competition roster-wide, the competition with the coaches and the practices, the schematic stuff. There was a thing this week about how O'Connell had given the idea for one of the blitzes to Flores. I'm sure vice versa. It's all the way around. The vibes are immaculate on this team, and it's exciting to see where they could go.
Off that point, Thor, I was talking to Metellus last week about like the defensive IQ, right? Like, I mean, because these guys are making calls. Like Flores sets them up for success, but he can't be coaching them in game. And so like they'll see what an offense is doing at the line of scrimmage and make calls. And he was talking about the fact that O'Connell had chimed in because I said, is this Flores? Are you guys floating ideas? And Metellus said it's to the point now where we will come off the field and make in-game play design suggestions and run those plays. So like it's a sideline thing, which I would guess is very, very rare. So they empower the players, Gilmore, Metellus, Smith, I'm sure a bunch of them, they empower the players to actually come up with ideas in game. So like O'Connell was tip of the iceberg of what they allow, which in football, as we all know, so many coaches are like, this is my system, don't F with my system. Flores welcomes it.
You know what it feels like? You know, back in the day, old Macadac used to play in concert jazz bands and used to play like in jazz is a lot of improvisation. When you get a jazz band together, or any band, it could be any band, the first step is, okay, what songs are we playing? And then we're probably just going to read the music, right? Like that's the base level of it. Dex has played guitar before. Judd, did you ever play an instrument?
I played trombone too, and I played fourth through
trombone.
ninth grade, so I played some jazz band. I know what you're talking about.
I took guitar 2nd through 4th grade and then quit.
Okay. Thor, any musical background?
I was a cello guy.
Oh, cello player. Oh, that's nice. Oh, classical. Classic. Thor is classically trained.
Of course, Thor. I would have said that. I would have said Thorsky, classical musician, no question about it.
But like I feel like Ed Donatel is kind of the introductory like music instructor. Where okay, this is the music. We're gonna read the music. This is my song. We're gonna play this song. But then by the time you go to like the XL Energy Center and you watch like Springsteen or something, or you watch like a high level jazz performance, and based on the way that the crowd is reacting, you can you're to the point where you can point over and kind of give a head nod. And, the thing that and everyone's like, yeah, let's go do this thing, right? I feel like that's the Vikings defense with a bunch of veterans under Flores, where it's like, all right, these are the base principles that we operate within. But did you see they did that? Yep, right. Okay, cool. And they can kind of knowingly have those conversations either on the field or on the sideline.
Yeah, great leaders. They're not dictators. They don't just dictate, right? Like it's a two-way thing. If you're not accepting feedback at any walk of life, how can you improve, right? And so O'Connell and Flores, they're so good at what they do. But a part of that, yes, it's getting feedback from those around you and then molding it into the plan. And so it's just really smart. And of course, that also, in addition to that, it engenders that the relationship between the staff and the players, where they know that they're empowered to go to that decision maker and say, this is what I'm seeing. I think this would work. And that they know that it's going to be listened to and they're not going to be scoffed at or whatever. So, yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
I think we should get to Thor's college football junkie thing to watch for Vikings fans here. Presented by AG1. So AG1's been a part of my regimen for 7, maybe going on 8 years. Each scoop of AG1, or each of these travel packs right here that I've been leaning on, contains whole food sourced ingredients that support gut health, focus, immune health, and more. And in fact, AG1 is constantly searching for how to do things better as well. They didn't just like roll out a product 7 years ago and here it is. They're at 52 iterations and counting of their formula because the team is constantly trying to find better ways to source, test, and aim for the best quality ingredients available. Great nutritional supplementation here with AG1. If you want to take ownership of your health, it starts with AG1. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3, K2, and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/purple daily. That's drinkag1.com/purple daily. Okay. Got a big weekend of college football here. More fun games with conference realignment here. So, Thor, give us your college football junkie thing for Vikings fans to watch this weekend?
Well, from last weekend, and I'm not gonna rub this in too much, but Caleb Johnson, for the Minnesota fans that watch Caleb Johnson, the Iowa running back, keep an eye on him. That's a potential early declaration and how well he runs, and the Vikings might be looking for a new starting running back this offseason. So tuck that one in the back of your head. Minnesota this week travels to Michigan. We have talked about the studs on the Michigan defense, the defensive tackles, and then Will Johnson. So something to keep an eye on. But since we've already gone in depth on those guys, Alabama, Georgia, I'd rather focus on that. That's a night game this weekend. It's going to be on ABC. You have the 2 top 5 teams there locking horns, and there's different NFL prospects on both sides for Vikings fans to keep an eye on. The 2 quarterbacks, that's the exception, although you'll get to see a couple guys that are drafted high in April in Milroe on the Alabama side, and then Carson Beck is going to go higher on the Georgia side. Could end up being QB1. Georgia has the stud edge rusher, Michael Williams, and the safety Malachi Starks. Those probably aren't as of pressing importance for the Vikings and Vikings fans. But the Georgia running back, Trevor Etienne, is a guy where if the Vikings don't take one of the running backs in round 3, 4, say, Etienne's a guy that's probably going to go more like 5, 6, maybe even 7. So it's sort of a tertiary option to keep an eye on. Nazir Stackhouse from Georgia, an interior defensive lineman, looking like a middle round prospect so far. He's going up against one of the best interior offensive line in college football in Alabama's. Tyler Booker and Jaden Roberts, Alabama's starting guards, are both upper tier guard prospects for this next NFL draft class. And then Parker Brailsford, a guy that Kalen DeBoer brought over from Washington, that Washington team that made the national title game last year against Michigan. He brought his center with him, and now he is sort of the crux point of that offense. So Alabama has a really good interior offensive line. Georgia has the good defensive front, seeing the way that plays out. Another guy to keep an eye on that's going to be in the next class, the linebacker for Alabama, Deontay Lawson. That could be a position that the Vikings mid to late rounds look to fortify the depth a little bit, bring in some competition. So he's a guy to keep an eye on as well.
Football!
Football, yeah! Football! Football!
Gotta eat!
Great show, gentlemen. It was a great show here today.
Love it.
A little reckless speculation for you. Again,
I got one bone to pick with Thor before he goes, though.
Yeah.
Tailgate last week. Gophers. In fact, Mackie didn't show up, too. I'm at the Babu tailgate waiting for my guy Thor. I text him, and he says, I got busy with work. I can't come on a Saturday.
Yeah. And I promised, too. I disappointed some people on Twitter as well. But, yeah, with the day job, with the college football, I try to get to down there. For the Gopher games, it's so much easier for me when they're the Thursday night game, like the opener. So, Gopher, please schedule some more Thursdays so it's more convenient for my schedule.
Not college football.
Yeah. But I was very – so, we were actually – my wife and I we went in like right when the gates opened to go. So she's training for a marathon and doesn't want to be walking around the tailgate lots after these training runs. So we went in and enjoyed a couple beverages, or at least I did, because she's training for a marathon. And the driver family was like a few rows down from where we were sitting, like with nobody in the stadium.
Double D?
And we're like Donald Driver is like, 20 feet away. And we're like, gosh, should we go up? He's with his family, but we kind of want to like say hi to Donald Driver. It's kind of nerding out. And then by the time we got done, like, should we not? They just like walked back inside and they were gone. So anyways, I think he seems like a nice guy, Donald Driver, his son playing for the Gophers.
Nice guy, yeah.
But
yeah, it's cool to see the Driver family migrate over to the good side.
Yeah. Exactly. So, well, Thor, great stuff. Find his work throughout the week, his A job, Matthew Berry's Fantasy Life, fantasylife.com, and all the social media platforms. Thor KU, by the way. You can follow Thor on Twitter/X. Great stuff, man. Thanks for coming on again, and we'll do it again next Thursday.
See you guys next week.
See ya.
All right, boys. Purple Daily. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.